So you want to create a game, you just downloaded Unreal Engine and are launching your first project. You go to Games, you choose the first person one because you want to make a shooter, and then you name it appropriately. You create the game. And here is the project. You press play, and you have something that works. You can move your camera, pick up the gun, and shoot the gun. Pretty cool, right? But soon, you'll notice that maybe you don't always want to have the same gun. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is teach you how to create this system so you can unequip and well, equip different types of guns that works to your favor. Learn to create an action game in Unreal Engine 5 at unfgames.com. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm right now using the 5.3 version of the engine, the preview one, so things may change in your template. And if we're long far in the future, things may change a little bit more. So in the case that it doesn't make much sense to you, I'll make sure to create a type of post or comment below where I can explain what stuff changed. Otherwise, you can tell us in our Discord server and we can help you. Right. So with that being said, what we need to do is create a way of using another type of gun and, well, making it work with our character, right? And it should be fairly simple. Why? Because inspecting what this template gave us, we already have a weapon. And it's a weapon that we can pick up. And it's a weapon that when we pick it up, an animation appears. Right now we can't see our arms, but whenever we pick up the weapon, now we can see our hands. We can shoot, and there goes an animation that's playing whenever I press my left mouse button. Now, what we should do first is inspect the code that we have already working, right? If you haven't learned anything about blueprints, you may want to check our in-depth blueprint tutorial, but if not, well, I will be giving you some sort of guidance so it's easier to understand, right? If you are an experienced user, what I would recommend is to check the Lyra project. Here in the Unreal Launcher, if you go to samples, you will find the Lyra starter game. And it's a shooter type of game. So if you already know about the basics of Unreal and you're trying to get your knowledge to the next level, you can investigate this game. Yeah, so that's all the disclaimers that I wanted to give before starting. And now we can continue. So first, I'm going to inspect the weapon. I can right click and edit or Control E, which I will be using from here on out. And let's see how the pickup functionality works. You can see that it's very well documented what every node is doing, right? So here it's just checking if we are colliding with a first person character, then we save that reference and we set the value of the weapon. It's a weapon reference inside the character, and if it's not valid, it means that my character is not holding a weapon. If it isn't, then we're adding a weapon component and we remove this pickup actor. So this actor, if we go to the viewport, consists of this sphere collision and this skeletal mesh, which is the weapon. And in this case, adding the blueprint weapon component, it just means that we are adding a skeletal mesh here. It's the same mesh, and setting it as a inside the first person character. We're setting it as a value. So what are we adding here? We are adding a blueprint weapon component. So this means that a component has been created as a class, and we can find it in content, first person blueprints, and here's the weapon component. If we double click it, you will see that here we will find more code, and we are setting the character references. We are adding a skeletal component so we can see the weapon, and there is a grip point where we can attach our weapon to whenever we have picked up the rifle. Now we are setting the variable that it has a rifle, it is casting it and adding the mapping context so we can shoot. This is using the enhanced input type of system, and I have already covered this enhanced input in a video of its own because it can get very complex, but it's actually very simple once you take your time to discover everything that it has to offer. So it's very simple because this node, what it does is adding the keys that my character will be able to press. And I mean, it will be better if we, instead of thinking about keys, because you may be controlling the game with keys or with a gamepad, we think about the actions that the player can do. For example, shooting. That shoot action can be mapped to either a key or to a mouse button or to a gamepad button or anything like that, or a trigger. So yeah, enhanced input makes us think about the type of actions that my character can do, and we can create contexts. I mean, you shouldn't be able to fire a weapon if you don't have a weapon. So picking up a weapon, which is basically what happens in the begin play, because whenever we add the component here in the pickup, this begin play gets run. So my mapping context gets added, and if we double click it, here in mappings, there's the action of shooting and the mappings of the left mouse button, right trigger, or a touch one if you were using a mobile type of device to control your game. So thus far, very clear. And here in weapon component, yeah, it should be the same way that most of our guns will work. They get created, they get attached, and we can shoot them with the left mouse button. The other thing about this is that whenever we shoot, then we are spawning the projectile, play the sound, and play the fire animations, right? So thus far, everything is clear. Now, let's see what's inside the character, just so I'm not missing anything. Here we have the jump, here we have the movement, camera input, mapping inputs for the movement. So you will see that nothing has changed from the actual third-person character or the default type of character. The only thing that has been added here is this variable called has rifle. And this is just used to know if you have a rifle or not. I mean, instead of doing this, we could also create some validations to see if the component exists. But I mean, it's easier just to have a Boolean variable, which is a variable that holds the true or false value inside it. So here we have this type of components. It seems that they have been also been created. This is a blueprint weapon component, which is the one that has already existed here, but it's an empty variable, I believe. Yes, it's completely empty. So what we're doing is basically filling this variable. Yeah, and in our viewport, we only see the hands. So if we press play and then we eject, detach from the player controller, you will see that my camera actually hides the arms. If we attach to the player controller again, and I'm looking upwards, then I will press Shift F1 like it said in this message, then I can detach again, and I will see that my arms are also following the movement of the camera. This is very useful because whenever we are holding our weapon, we do want my arms to keep holding the weapon wherever I'm looking towards to. So yeah, that's the review of the current code that the sample has given us. So now it's just a matter of extending this code. Again, there are a lot of ways of doing this, but I'm just using the templates because it should be easier for everyone to start with something that already exists. But you're free to make your own system based on the logic that I have been and will be talking about. It's a good idea to have a game plan. So I'll open a text editor, and in this notepad, I will write whatever I want to do with this so I can achieve my goal, which is changing or unequipping and equipping guns, right? So we need a way to have different pickups. These pickups should have different type of looks or maybe firing types of guns. So I'm putting make the guns different in behavior. The next step, I mean, we want to be able to switch around the weapons, so I need to be able to drop them. Yeah, step 3 will be unequip the weapons. And I mean, more than steps, they are just like a list of things that I need to make sure that they are working, so I can call this done. And that's pretty much it, actually, because inside of them, I mean, I could go more into detail. For example, an equip weapon will make me add a new input, will make me also create the pickup weapons again, so we can equip it again if I want to equip them. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the unequipped weapon. Well, I will need to remove the weapon from my character also. Or something like that, yeah. So you can see that having like main topics or main functionalities will lead to smaller ones. So it's a good idea to have this a little bit planned. I mean, I don't really go this much into detail. I do like to have bigger goals, and then while I'm developing, because things may change, I will start deciding which part is more important, which parts should be there, should not be there. I mean, if it was a bigger project, for sure I'll try to get a little bit more into detail, so the path is super clear for me in order to just start developing. So here we can start with this one. The first thing that I want to do is add different pickups. The easiest way to do it will be to just search where this blueprint is, which is the pickup blueprint. We can browse to the asset or Control B and duplicate this. If we duplicate this, then we can just change the name, we can change the mesh, and be done with it, right? But what happens if, let's say I create 3 of these type of guns, and then I want my collision to be a little bit bigger in all of them? Then I will need to add that change to the 3 blueprints that I created. So to avoid that, especially when you don't know how much of one thing you want, I'm going to create a blueprint that is the parent of this pickup. Okay? And this is especially useful whenever you have more than one stuff. So let's say I only have 1 gun now. The moment I need 2, then you need to think, oh, for sure, maybe I will need 3, 4, 5. You don't know. So whenever you see that something is repeating, it's a good idea to start thinking about the future and creating a system that can work in a very scalable way. So what I'm gonna do is just get this pickup rifle, and I'm going to create a child blueprint class. This one will be called blueprint rifle child for now, and I'm going to rename this one to just blueprint pickup gun. Now this, I'm going to rename it, or before I rename it, let's save it. And because this is being used by some classes, it's a good idea whenever you rename a file to go to the folder, right click on it, and fix up redirectors. Redirectors are little assets that get created every time you change the name or location of a asset inside the engine. It is done so other assets that are referencing to this asset can't find the new location or the new name of the pickup. So by cleaning up the redirectors, then I'm getting all the reference cleaned up. So we don't need that file, invisible file that gets created, and you would have been able to see it if you go here in the filter, and it should be, where was it? Other filters, I believe. Redirectors. Oh, it's in miscellaneous, and here they are, redirectors. Right now, I just cleaned them, so you won't be able to see it. Okay, so now that I cleaned the reference, I can change the name to the previous one. Because if I do this immediately, sometimes the name gets mixed up, so I don't want that. Okay, so now this is very clean. We have the pickup gun, and we have the pickup rifle. The pickup rifle, if you see the parent class, is using the pickup gun. This means that whatever change I do in the pickup gun, let me just remove this for now. Let's say I just remove the skeletal mesh. I just put the variable setting to none again, and I compile and save. You will see that my pickup rifle no longer has the default value. But I could enter here, select the skeletal mesh, and here find my gun again. Pretty cool. Right. So with this, I have created a pickup, and now I need to use it because this is using the parent blueprint. I want to use the child blueprint. So this, I will put it here. Now it could be a good idea to create a folder called guns and put all my guns inside of it, but I will only create 2 guns, so it shouldn't make much difference. So let's say here I will duplicate this. And now this is not a rifle. This will be a shotgun. Now I don't have an asset for the shotgun, but at least I can change the functionality so I can see what's happening, right? So I'm going to open my shotgun. Because this is the application of a class that didn't have any code inside it, because I only changed the values here. And I could search the values. No, I can't search the values here. Well, you will see this screen. Don't worry. It doesn't mean that you have done anything wrong. If you want to see the full blueprint editor, you just can click here. And that's what I'm going to do. So here I'm going to go back to the viewport. And again, click on the skeletal mesh. And there is a material here. This material dictates how this gun looks. And I want to change the color of this. So I'm going to search for this material here. Perfect. I'm going to create a material instance. This will be my shotgun, because I just want to change the color. So let's double click here. You will see this, but if you actually want to know how it looks like, you can search. We can select a preview mesh. You need to select a mesh-based asset and then click here to preview it. So let's do that. Let's search for my weapon. Now it has been selected. And I'm gonna click here and now I can see my weapon. Here, there already exist parameters because the Unreal stuff is really good with creating properties that you can edit very quickly. If you want to learn more about materials, we also have an in-depth tutorial about it. In our case, we just need to change the color, so let's click check here and change the color maybe to red. Okay, and let's save it. And this, I won't save it as M first person gun. I will save it as, oh, I will search it first here with this button. I will save it as material instance. Just like my blueprint is a child blueprint of the parent one, a material instance works similarly. Yeah, kind of like that, but it doesn't let you add code. It just lets you change some parameters that you set up in the master material. Or well, in the parent material, excuse me. Now let's use this material. Let's go to my blueprint, and here I will select the material that I created, which is here. Or, well, you can also select it in your content drawer or content browser, and then click on the arrow here. Let's save, compile, and let's put my new pickup. Where is my shotgun? Now let's press play. You will see that this works correctly. And you will see that this shotgun, even though I have picked it up, I'm not seeing the change in the material. So we will fix that next. To fix it, let's open our blueprint pickup gun, which is the parent blueprint. Look for the component begin overlap. And here, what we need to change is the way that this add weapon component is working. Because if we click on it, we can set up the different, for example, gun mesh and also the material. So if I change the material to the one that the shotgun uses, then I will press compile and play. If I pick it up, it's fine. I cannot pick this one up. But if I pick up the other one, you will see that it's not fine. So we need to set up that material based on the properties that my current gun has. So what I'm gonna do is get a reference to the component that is being added just by dragging and dropping from this pin. Here I will set the things that I want to change. Here I can see that one is called skeletal mesh asset and the other is called material, and I want to change the element 0. Right? So before doing that, I want to return the default material here. And now I can drag and drop. Click set skeletal mesh asset. And again, set material. And it's the element index 0, so it's the one that I want to change. So I want to change these two things inside the component. Now, if I just set it up like this, then every time I pick up a gun, for sure it will use the same mesh and the same material. So I need to check what properties does my skeletal mesh currently has, because here it has the same mesh but different material, and the same applies for the shotgun. Maybe later on we can be able to change the skeletal asset, the skeletal mesh asset. So for now, let's just go to the parent blueprint, which is the blueprint pickup gun. The new mesh, I will get the current skeletal mesh. Remember, in this parent blueprint, this mesh is empty, but in the child blueprints, it will be filled. So here, I will mean, if you just connect it like this, it won't work because this is a skeletal mesh component, and here I'm just looking for a new mesh. So here I need to get the skeletal mesh. Could be this one or the skeletal mesh asset. Let's use the first one. This could work. Let me just double check. Get skeletal mesh asset. It will work both ways. Now again, from this skeletal mesh, I'll get the material. The element index is the 0. If you have a more complex skeletal mesh, you will need to set up the materials for each of the index. So for each one of the indices, you will need to get this and set the material appropriately. Let's connect this like this. Let's compile and save. And here, oh, it says that the skeletal mesh is being deprecated. It's telling me to use the get skeletal mesh asset, so let's do it. I'll delete this. I was wondering why there were both those nodes. So one is just there because of compatibility. So let's use the skeletal mesh asset. Great. Compile, save. Even I'm learning something new. So let's test it now. If I get my normal gun, it's the same color. If I get the other one, it's the color that I set it up. Now, if you manage to change the skeletal mesh, which I won't do because I don't have another asset and I don't want to waste too much time modifying this asset, then you will see that also the mesh changes. So that leaves us with this part of having different pickups completed. So I'll just delete this part. I'll press that Windows key plus the period key to add an emoji, and I will add the check one. The next step is making the guns feel different, have a little bit of different behavior. Because if I'm picking up a rifle, it won't behave like a shotgun. To do this, we need to take in consideration our gun systems and how our guns working. And here's what I mean by that. In our case, whenever we pick up a gun, we are assigning a component, a blueprint weapon component that we can find, if I remember correctly, here in first person, blueprints, and weapon component. This component is in charge of handling how you shoot it. So how you shoot the guns and what happens when you shoot one, right? So depending on how you're dealing with giving guns to your player, your setup in this part will be a little bit different, right? Because instead of using a component, in this case, this is a skeletal mesh component that we are attaching to my character, which should be my blueprint first person character. It's like we were adding something like this. We can search for my weapon component. Here, if we click this, it will get added to my viewport, and this is exactly what we are giving to my character. And I'm going to press Ctrl C or Ctrl Z, depending on where you are on the world. So that's what we are doing whenever we pick up a gun. If my guns were their own blueprints and the logic of shooting the guns was in their own blueprint, then the setup will be a little bit different. But I'm going to follow the same logic that this template is using. If for some reason the template changed in the future, then I'm very sorry, and I will probably have to do an update on this tutorial. Just let me know so I can do it. Okay, so what we are going to do, because we are always using this weapon component, can be two things. We can handle it the same way that we did it with the pickups where I create, or well, where I use the existing class of my pickup. Remember that this was a rifle? Yeah, we changed that to a parent class just by making it more generic, by clearing the value of my skeletal mesh asset. And then we created the shotgun and the rifle. And here I just changed the way the shotgun and the rifle looks. And yeah, I can close the pickup rifle and I can close the blueprint pickup shotgun. Yeah, here it is. Also, I closed this material instance because we have already used it. So that's one approach that we can take. The other approach will be changing how we are thinking about this weapon component. I mean, if we are just setting up the skeletal mesh here and the material here, well, there's nothing stopping me from declaring a new variable and make that variable determine the type of weapon this weapon will be. So what do I mean by that? Because we could have different type of weapons, in my case, I could create what it's called an enumerator. So I'm going to right click here, I'm going to go to blueprints, and here, click on enumeration. Let's call it E from enumeration, underscore, type or types of weapon, or of gun, if you want to be more specific. Right. Let's open it, and you will see that there is no values here. An enumerator is basically a list. We can add enumerators. And behind the scenes, this list just is holding values for this item. This item is 1, this item is 2, or well, actually this item is the index 0, this is the index 1, the index 2. But in order for me to not have to remember, oh, the item 0 is a gun, or the item 2 is a sword, or something like that, we can give them names. It's a good idea for your first item to be none, because you want to have a default value as none, so you know that that value has been set before and is not just a generic value that may change or may cause some logic problems in the future. And you will see what I mean by this. So first, let's create our enumerator. The first one will be none. The second one will be the rifle. And the second one will be the shotgun. Now, let's save it. We can close it. And in my blueprint weapon component, I'm going to create a variable. This variable is going to be called type of weapon, because I mean the name is weapon component, so why not follow that? Now let's change the type of the weapon. Oh, excuse me, the type of the variable to the enumerator that we just created. So E underscore types of gun. Let's compile. And now that we have compiled my blueprint, if I click if I click on top my type of weapon, here we can change the value. And you see that the first one is none, then is rifle, and then is shotgun. So for now, I can leave it at none, because this should change as soon as I pick up a weapon. So that's why I decided, and it's also a good practice for your first item of an enumerator to be none. Otherwise, by default, this will be a rifle, and you may find that if you forget to change the default value, you will be having, by default, rifles. And this may lead to a bit of confusion inside your code, or especially when you get back to your code after maybe 1 or 2 months, you will be asking yourself, why are there so many rifles? So yeah, it's a good idea to have a non-value. Okay, so let's compile and save. And now my gun, whenever we pick something up, remember that we added the component, we set the skeletal mesh and set the material. Well, now we need to set this type of weapon. And it should be fairly simple. Set type of weapon. And I'll just connect it like this. Make sense? Now, the type of weapon needs to be determined by the pickup. So this will mean that here, this is my parent type of gun, of pickup gun actor. So I shouldn't need to choose the type here. I will need to choose the type inside the child blueprints of my pickup gun. So what I'm gonna do is create a variable, promote to a variable. Let's just save it and compile. And I can, where is it? Yeah, I can open my rifle and my shotgun. And here, I will need to find it should be under default, the type of weapon. This is the rifle, so this one will be a rifle. Let's open the shotgun, and this will be a shotgun. I will compile and save everything. There are two unsave here, so I'm going to click here and save selected. Now that each rifle is setting up the type of weapon that it should be, we can use this value. And we will need to go to my weapon component, go to the fire, or input action shoot, and then we can use this type of weapon. I'm gonna get this value to select what type of action do I want to do when the weapon is, well, triggered or shot. So to select, if we are working with an enumerator, we can drag from this pin and type switch. Switch on types of gun, and this will be a node that is very useful for us whenever we're working with enumerators, because it means that if I connect it like this, if it's none, it would play whatever is after this pin. If it's a rifle, then whatever is after this one. And if it's a shotgun, well, you get the point. So this is my default behavior. So I will just say that this is my rifle type of behavior. Something like this. And if I wanted to create a shotgun, then, well, I may just copy and paste this. And what I need to do is spawn more projectiles. So the super easy solution will be to just, well, first let's connect this shotgun here. And I'll copy and paste this. Let's try it with 3, just so we can see what's happening. Something like that. And then I'll just connect after the play sound at location. Maybe we could use a sound for the shotgun, another sound. But for now, I'm going to use the same montage that is being used for shooting a gun. Again, if the gun is different, then you should probably change this montage play so it's using a different animation. Or it even will be better that instead of handling every weapon inside this component, you either create your own components. This could be the parent component, and then you can do whatever you want in the child components, or create gun actors, blueprint actors that you can use interchangeably. which is the way that I would usually do it, but I'm trying to respect the logic that the template gave us. So okay, we have these 3 shots. If we try to compile, it's gonna not like it because we are not feeling the spawn transform pin. So that's a thing that I need to do now. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to duplicate this. Just like that. In location, it will be the same location. But the rotation will change a little bit. How so? From here, and I'm going to organize this a little bit better. I can double click the pins to create this reroute node, just so it's a little bit cleaner. So again, from the player camera rotation, I'm going to add a little bit. You can type add, or you can just combine rotators to add some values to the rotation. And in this case, was it C? This is the yaw value. This is not what I need. Or yeah, let's try with the yaw value. This will be 10. I'm going to copy and paste this and minus 10. We're just adding 10 degrees and minus 10 degrees. Now let's compile. Well, let's save and compile. Usually that's the correct order to do it, just in case your compilation crashes your engine. Let's test it out. Let's see if something shows up. So this is the shotgun. And if I click, there it goes. Now you will see that sometimes it's not working that well, right? Well, it's because the pickups, the projectiles are colliding to each other. And that's not what I need. So just as a quick fix, let's go back to my weapon component. And here, I can set up a little bit of that collision. And I'm gonna type ignore. And here it is, ignore actor when moving. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking for. So ignore actor when moving. I'm going to move my sound to this side. And the actor I'm going to ignore are the other ones. The thing about this is that this projectile can't ignore this actor because it has not been created yet. That's something you need to take in consideration. So it may be easier for me if I enter, instead of using this node that I would like to use, but because I'm creating 3 stuff, then I will need to get the actors that have been created and then set up this, and it sounds a little bit cumbersome to me, but I just wanted to point it out because that's a way that you can easily ignore something when you just create a blueprint that needs to ignore something when they are in the trajectory of your movement. So I believe it will be a lot easier if I go here. I search for my blueprint first person projectile. So let's just use that shortcut. It's Control plus P. So Control P. I'm going to search the class that I'm looking for, which is the blueprint first person projectile. And here I'm going to see the viewport. There is a collision here, collision component. This is a sphere. So I'm gonna click on the collision component. Going to check what it says here, collision presets, custom. It's ignoring the palm. it's the object type projectile, and what I'm gonna do is to make it also ignore the projectiles. Let's save and compile, and now they shouldn't be able to collide with each other. So just as a test, if I pick up the normal rifle, there it goes. It's working correctly. And if I pick up the shotgun, then there are my 3 shots, right? If you want more shots, I mean, instead of just copying and pasting this here, what I would do is create a loop that will loop as many times as you like. Man, I should probably do it. It won't take that much time. Okay, let's do it. Yeah, why not? So what I'm gonna do is create a for loop, excuse me, for loop. For each loop, no, this one, for loop. First index is 0. Remember that I talked within the enumerations that the first value was 0. Yeah, it still works the same way for these loops. So what I'm gonna do here is create a new value called shotgun projectiles. Number projectiles. Number of shotgun shells. And this will be an integer because I should not be able to shoot half a bullet. So with this number, when I get it, well, let's compile it so we can change the number. Let's say we want 4 shells to be shot at the same time. Or it should be number of shotgun pellets. Yeah, I'm not that knowledgeable about first-person shooters, so I don't really remember the terms, but you know what I mean. 4. If I connect it like this, let's remember that the zero value is the start, so it will be 5 times because it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's 5 times. So I can either use the 1, and now it starts from 1, and it's easily understood, or the programmer way is starting at 0 and just subtracting 1 to my total value of items. Whatever you think it's easier to understand for you, you should do that. Okay, so instead of just creating it like this, I'm going to hold my control button so I can click this and drag my pin to my for loop. This for loop will be, well, it should be around here, but I don't have that much space, so I will put it here for now. Now, I need to loop, and I'm disconnected this by holding Alt and clicking. I'm going to loop this spawn actor. This is the thing that I want to loop, the number of shotgun shells, or, well, shotgun pellets that I have, and here, this is not right. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, this works. Okay, so here I'm creating maybe 5 shotgun shells, and after I complete the creation, I want to play the sound. I still want to play the sound. Now I'm going to delete the other spawn actors. And what we need to do here is change the rotation depending on the type or on the index that this has been created. Or even easier, we can just change the rotation by using a random number. What do I mean by that? Here, remember that we were adding, and I'm gonna delete this part. Remember that you created these combined rotators, and here we're adding 10 to the right and 10 to the left. Okay, we can do the same thing. We can go here. We are going to connect it like that. We're gonna delete this. And instead of adding a fixed value, and let me delete this part also, we're going to do a little bit of randomization. So here, I'm going to right click, split the struct pin, and in yaw, I'm going to do random float in range. So the maximum value I want to add as a rotation was minus, well, the minimum value is -10 and the maximum should be 10. I'm going to do the same thing for the pitch because the pitch will be up and down. So let's just copy and paste the node so we get another random number. And that's pretty much it actually. Let me just select these two reroute nodes and put them like this. Select this and double click on top of the wire. And then we can do something like that. Or yeah, it's fine like this. Yeah, we can just also delete this and connect it like this. Perfect, so let's see how this is looking. Save and compile. Let's pick up the shotgun. And we actually get the value. Also, if you don't like that the pickups, no, that the, oh, come on, what's the word? That the projectiles are falling, well, we could change the gravity, right? Let's see if we can do it. So let's get the projectile movement. Projectile movement, and I want the component, which is this one. Let's get it. And from this projectile movement component, let's set the gravity scale. And this could be 0. That way, when we save and compile and play the game, I'm getting the shotgun, and now, well, they are not being affected by any gravity, so just take that in consideration. Yeah, let's see our game plan. And now we have the guns working in a different type of behavior. The last step is unequipping the weapon. So let's start with the input for unequipping the weapon. Just like our weapon component holds the input action for shooting, it should have another input action for dropping the gun. So let's create that input action. We can search here in the folder inputs, there will be actions, and we can create another one. So let's just go to input, input action, and let's call it input action unequip. Let's save it. And if we open it, yeah, we don't really need to do much here. Let's go back to my content drawer, input, and here in the mapping context called weapons, we will add our new mapping, which is the unequip input action. Here we could use the right mouse button, but it wouldn't feel right. So let's just use, maybe, could be G, could be X, what else? Could be F. Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with. I'll just put it at F. For the gamepad, let's go with what it should be, the bottom face up or face button top. Button top. Yeah, this one. Yeah, and for the touch, you could use touch 2 or something like that, but let's just keep it simple. Let's save it. And now whenever we add a weapon, or well, whenever our our character picks up a weapon, not only does he get the new action of shooting it, but also gets the new action of unequipping it. In our case, let's go back to my weapon components. I will close these shotguns. I don't even need this. It's already set up. Let's close it, and I'm closing it with the middle mouse button. Also, it can work. The character, yeah, weapon component. We just need to add the new input. So let's go here on the button, and okay, perfect. And let's search for input action and equip. Now, whenever this is triggered, we can show a message to know that this is happening, right? And equipping. Let's save it. Let's go to my first person map. Let's play. Let's get a weapon. Let's press F. And you can see that we are unequipping. Yeah, but you will see that it triggers every time I'm holding the button. So I'm going to make the same modification in my unequip. I don't know if I did the modification for shooting or I'm thinking about another video, but the modification I want to do is open the input action and equip. And here, let's go to triggers. And here, let's choose. We can either choose pressed, so it only triggers when I press the input, or I can choose release, that it means that I pressed and I release the button. I'm gonna choose press. I feel it's more responsive. The default value of this, or the default type of behavior you get if you don't set the modifier, excuse me, the trigger, is the hold. That's why if I hold the key, you will see that it keeps triggering. Okay, so let's click on press, let's save it, and now let's test it again. And this only triggers once when I press it. And if I press it again, I will keep unequipping my gun. But once I unequip, I will remove the context, so yeah, it won't work again. So let's do that. Let's remove that context. That I believe is the next step. Oh no, the next step is remove the current weapon from the character, but yeah, remove input, or well, the shooting type of input, or remove the weapon context. And this should be the weapon input context. Yeah, so we need to do this first. The way that this was added, I believe, it was in the begin play. We got the character, we attach it to a component, we add, maybe I should change this variable. Instead of has rifle, it's just has gun or has weapon. And we need to do this again, add mapping context, weapons, but instead of adding, we're going to be removing it. Okay, so let's just copy and paste this. So I need to do a little bit of stuff when I'm unequipping, a little bit of different orders that I need to give my weapon. So first I'm going to delete this. Here, when it's triggering, or when it gets triggered, when I press the key, I'm going to use a sequence just to get myself a little bit more organized. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is use this part, and I can remove the comment. And instead of, and let me put this, let's dock it to the sidebar like this. Instead of adding a mapping context, I'm going to be removing a mapping context. So here, remove mapping context. and I'm going to select my weapons. This is removing my ability to use the input action of shooting and the input action of unequipping the gun. So if I'm mashing buttons, as soon as this gets removed, then my unequipping or my shooting stuff won't be able to work anymore. So here, I'm gonna select this part, I'm going to press the C key, this one, C, for comment, and this will be remove the weapon input or input mapping context. Okay, so now I need to remove the current weapon from the character. So removing stuff is just a matter of checking how stuff were added and then doing the same steps but backwards. So here the input was added. Okay, I'll remove the input. Then the hash rifle is being set up. So, well, I also need to set this up. But instead of viewing true, I'll just put it as false. What's the next step? Attach component to component and setting up the weapon. So this has been already saved, so I have access to this first person character here in this variable. So let's just copy this to just as a way of not having to go back there over and over again. I mean, I could do that. I could put my blueprint here. I could create a new bookmark, call it attach the weapon and click add. And then whenever I need to go to that bookmark, I could search for it. But this means that I need the bookmark window, which you can find in window, bookmarks, and then here it is, attach the weapon, and immediately jumps to this part. And we can use the arrows to go from where we were. But I'm just copying it here, it's just faster for me. Okay, so this first person character, I'm gonna get it. First, I want to detach my component. And here the target is self, right? So I'm going to use detach. And here I'm attaching it to a component. So I'm going to put detach from component. This is the component I'm looking for, first person mesh. Let's go and choose this one. Detaches from component, first person mesh. Just like that. Okay, so this part done. Here I'm setting a weapon. So from the first person character, I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to set the weapon. And here I'm setting it as self. And self means that is this blueprint component, this skeletal mesh component. So instead of setting up as self, I will leave it blank. So I'm resetting the value inside my first person character. So here I'm resetting the weapon. Then I'm setting the first person character here. And if we go back to our other place here in the begin play, you will see that here we're setting up the first person character. So instead of setting up the first person character, what I'm gonna do is just clean the value. And I'm going to comment my code, and this comment will say resetting first person character values to a previous state. Now, this means, let's compile, let's save and then compile. Here I'm missing a get controller. This should be got from the first person character. So I'm missing that, this variable. Okay, now I shouldn't be having compilation error. So save, compile, everything's working now correctly. So now when I unequip, we should be removing our component. Let's just first person map, play it. Let's get our shotgun. Let's press F. And I no longer see it. It has been detached. Now, if I search and let's just press Shift F1 to get my mouse control back. I'm going to detach the player so I can select my player. And my player should be around here somewhere. Here's my first person character. Right now, it doesn't have the mesh of my weapon. But just in case, because in no way or in no place of my code, I'm deleting the component. I'm just detaching it. So this means that the component still exists somewhere. I'm gonna press F again and nothing's there, right? So just to be sure, what I'm gonna do here, after doing all this stuff, and probably I'll just create a new sequence pin. I'm going to put, okay, you can just type destroy and you can destroy the component immediately. This is just marking this component to be picked up by the garbage collection. Or you can also set the lifespan, although I believe that only works for actors. Yeah, only works for actors. So destroying the component, yeah, it's the way to go. Let's save, compile, and you shouldn't see anything different, but let's just test it just in case. Okay, perfect, works. So here we are removing the current weapon from the character. But what I want to do is create the weapon pickup just in case I want to pick it up again. So we need to again create this pickup because whenever this has been picked up, we are destroying it. So what I'm gonna do is before destroying this component, I'm going to create a new execution pin in my sequence node, then with control, rearrange my wiring. So this is the last thing that I run. And from here, I'm going to spawn an actor from class. Now, here I need to determine which actor I want to spawn. If I'm holding a rifle, for example, then, well, I need to spawn a rifle pickup. If I'm holding a shotgun, then it makes sense to spawn a shotgun pickup. So the class will depend on the type of the weapon. And we could do the same thing that we did before, like a switch. And then, oh, here is the rifle. And I can duplicate the node, and here's for the shotgun, right? But it creates extra nodes. And I only want to change this value. So what I can do, I'm gonna drag and drop from this pin, the class pin, that is the value that I want to change, and type select. And I don't know why, with bigger letters. Okay, so select. This is the one that I need. I didn't mean to type it with all caps. And this is going to ask me for an index. This index will be the type of weapon. And now I have the ability to choose if what type of class do I want to use depending on the type of enumerator that this value has. So if my weapon type is rifle, well, I want to choose my rifle pickup. If my weapon type is shotgun, then shotgun. And if it is none, then it should never be none, right? It will throw an error if it's none. But let's remember that Blueprints is very sensitive to the order in which you are doing stuff. And this is being run as the third item in this sequence. In the second wiring, here we are not only removing the has rifle, and we are not only detaching it, but we are getting rid of the weapon. And something that I think I forgot to add was also clearing the type of weapon. This should also be here. And this should be none, right? Because, again, this is not holding anything. And if we do it like this, then I will have an error here, because this will be none. But if we don't set it up, which we can actually get, yeah, we don't actually need to set it up because this weapon component is being deleted, is being destroyed. Here I'm only setting up values inside my person character, in my first person character. So yeah, this is fine. But probably I would have liked to for this spawn actor to be before my resetting the values. The value should be the something before destroying my component. So yeah, I'm gonna fix it. It didn't it needed, come on, it didn't need fixing, but I'm going to do it just for me to understand it easier if for whatever reason I need to go back to this project. Now this makes a little bit more sense to me. Well, I need to assign a place where I'm going to spawn this actor. Very important. And just so it's easier for me, what I'm gonna do is use the position of my first person character, which I would have lost here, I believe. First person character set to blank. Here, let's get it. Let's get the location. Get actor location. And if I just connect it like this, let's make a transform so my node knows what do I mean by get actor location. Okay, now I'm connecting it to the location of the transform that this spawn actor will use. If I just connect it like this, the pickup will be spawned on my location, but I don't want that. I want my pickup to be spawned on front of me, or in front of me, right? And if I was using something that I can throw, then I would probably spawn it near me and then add some acceleration to the front. Yeah, especially when you're using guns that can fall on the floor and have their own custom collision. My case, this template, it's fine if I just do it like this. So it's a good starting point if I do it like this. So get actor location, and I'm going to add a little bit of location to my spawn location. Easy way to do it, let's just put here 200 in X. Let's save, compile. Let's go to the first person map. And here I will, remember, you can see that x-axis is this way. So I can pick up my gun, I can press F, there is my gun again, and pick it up again, and for some reason it didn't give it to me. I think I have done something incorrectly, but we can work it out. But the thing about this is that if I'm looking to another way, if I press F, then it's still being created 200 units in the x-axis. So let's first finish dropping the weapon. Okay, so here, instead of using a static value, what I'm gonna do is get where my character is looking towards. And this is something that we can get from our shooting logic. Get camera manager, get camera rotation, and with this, let's get it. I'm copying and pasting. I can use it here. Yeah, so now we have that direction that we need. So I need to know, in terms of a direction, I want to add that direction. I want to add 200 in this direction, right? So from this camera rotation, this is a rotator because it's kind of blue, kind of purple. Let's get forward vector. Now this is a vector that I can use with a number to multiply it. And that will give me the direction that I want. So here I'm going to multiply it by 200. This can be 200, or this can be a variable called something like drop weapon distance. Let's compile. Let's select it and let's see the details panel, and it is 200. And this actually doesn't need to be a vector. This can be an integer. But yeah, this should be an integer actually. Let's delete this so it's not being used. Let's compile. Let's select the drop weapon distance. I didn't notice this was a vector. Let's click on integer. Integer or float if you want a distance. If you want more control, an integer, this one should be fine. Let's compile. Let's click on the details and set up to 200. Drop weapon distance. I'm going to, okay. So here we can promote the vector to an integer. So let's do that. And now let's connect it like this. This is giving me the direction, and this is giving me the length, the distance that I want to multiply that direction. And when I add it to my current location, it should look something like this. It's just a little bit of math. And you'll see that here nothing happened, right? Well, it's because I was looking downward. Yeah, and I don't actually want to use that. I only want it to be straight, in a straight line. So instead of just using the camera rotation, I'm going to modify this rotation action. So let's break this pin with Alt or with right click break link. And here I'm going to split this destruct pin, and here split destruct pin again. I only want the yaw value. The pitch and the roll, I'm not interested with those values. So let's save, compile, and now let's see what's happening. It doesn't matter if I'm looking upwards, my gun will be using the actual rotation. And you will see that it's always looking in the same way, and probably you don't want that, or at least I don't want that. So we can use the same value here. Let's make this rotator, make. And I want this one, make rotator. And I'm going to connect my yaw value. Should I connect this yaw value? I believe I should. And I'm going to press play, and now the gun is always looking to the side. Okay, so now the only thing that is not working is the part that getting again my gun doesn't work. And let me just test if, okay, I drop this gun and I try to pick up this gun and still it doesn't work. Let's see why it doesn't work. And we will touch a little bit of blueprint debugging. I'll just let me select everything here and do a little bit of cleaning of my code. Let's select all of these, and here spawn pickup. Of the selected gun. There it goes. Okay, let's save, compile, and let's see where my pickup is not working. So here we have the pickup gun, and I want to inspect if this is happening. So I can click here in my add weapon component, right click it. We can toggle a breakpoint or add a breakpoint. Toggling is just adding, and if it has been added, then I can toggle it again to remove it. So F9 is a hotkey that will help you a lot. Let's play my game. Here, it is working. Having a breakpoint means that whenever this breakpoint is hit, or this node is executed, the game will stop, will break here. So this is working correctly. Let's continue playing. This works. I'm gonna drop my component, well, my gun, and I'm gonna collect it again. And you see that my add blueprint weapon, it is being added again. So let's see what's happening then. This being added means that my weapon was correctly cleaned inside my first person character reference. So the problem is not here. We are cleaning the variables correctly. Now let's see what happens now. If we go to the next node, and there are two ways of doing this, continue the execution, or step into the next node to be executed, or step to the next node to be executed in the current graph. So I'll be using F10. So step to the next node. And here in this node, I'm adding a mesh, which is the skeletal mesh first person gun. So this is fine. Let's press F10 again. The material I'm getting is the material for the gun. It seems fine again because I'm getting this gun and not the shotgun. Let's press F10 again. The type of weapon is a rifle. This is correct again. And then I'm destroying the actor. Now, what's the issue? So far, well, I don't know, because the pickup is working correctly. So it probably means that me picking up this weapon component should have a problem here in the weapon component actor. So let's just stop the simulation. Let's remove the breakpoint here. I'm gonna press F9 here. And now I'm gonna go to my weapon component. And the way we pick up stuff is through the begin play, because here we are setting up the first person character, the weapon, we attach it to a component, and then we do the adding of the mapping context, which it is working because whenever I press F, then I can drop the weapon, but I'm not able to see it yet. Okay, so let's press F9. Let's press play. Let's get the weapon. So this is working the first time. So let's see how it works whenever we are picking it for the first time, and let's see if there's a difference between both executions. So here I'm setting up the first person character, the variable. Here I'm setting up the weapon, and then attaching the component here. And in this attach component to component, the first person mesh, yeah, it is well set up. It is having a value inside of it. The target itself, let's press F10. This changes to half rifle, and here I'm adding the mapping context. Let's continue. Now I'm going to drop the weapon. Now I'm not seeing my gun. Gonna collect it again, and let's see if this is different. Set first person character. We set the weapon. Self. Yeah, it's fine. Target. Parent. So far so good. This, yeah, it's still working the same. Here the return value is true, so something was attached. Rifle, stereo controller. Yeah, it seems it's the same thing, right? And here we're adding the gun, mesh, and the material, and the type of weapon. Yeah, so far the code is working correctly, but for some reason my mesh is not showing up. So let's see the next possible culprit. The next idea I had for debugging this is playing, detaching, and I'm seeing that I do have arms. Now let's continue. I get my weapon and I can remove this breakpoint. Let's continue playing. Let's shift F1, detach, see that I have arms. Let's attach, let's press F, and let's see again if I have those arms. F1, detach, and I don't. So somewhere my arms are being lost, and here they are. Now, this means that I'm detaching the arms, and not only am I detaching the weapon. So this is trouble for me. Let's go back to my weapon component. Let's search where I'm detaching my gun. Here I'm detaching the component, and here is my problem. Detach from component, it doesn't need the component I'm detaching it to. So here, instead of just choosing first person mesh, I just need to choose target self. Let's compile. Let's save. Yeah, that was an issue on my part. Let's press play. Now everything should be working correctly. I'll press F. I'll use Shift F1, detach. My arms should be there, which means that, where's my, okay, I'm controlling my character again, and now I can see my arms working correctly. And also I can see my gun. So finally everything clicked together. And just to confirm my suspicion, if I didn't remove this weapon by destroying the component, let me just delete this, I should be able to see it, which it means, oh, where is it? I'm guess. Oh, I'm guess it's been. Um, let's remove this. Yeah, it's here. It's being detached to the center of my world. Yeah, so don't forget to add that. Let me close this to destroy that component. And also, it's a good thing if you are seeing errors to play with your game. Press escape, see if there are any more errors. I didn't see any errors popping up. I think there was some errors because I don't know. I wasn't removing my shotgun. Yeah, because now it's very clean, no errors. So yeah, that's how we create a way of picking up weapons. Well, the picking up part was already done in the template. I just did a quick overview on how it worked, and we created different type of weapons. We could unequip them, and finally we can pick them up again. So that is the overall logic that you can follow to do your own type of system. Maybe a type of system where you can drop the weapon and this weapon will go flying away, and then you will need to chase it for some reason. Yeah, I mean, if you want it to be a little bit more realistic, then that's the approach that you may want to use. In my case, this example, yeah, is more than enough for me to teach you the basics. So hopefully this was very informative for you and you can extend it. And if you want some ideas on how you can do it for your own type of game, well, you can visit our Discord channel, our Discord server, or leave a comment in the comment section below. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.